Today, I'm gonna tell you about that motorcycle club of Scotland that has violence in its veins.
Between the Hells Angel and a rival gang may have been in retaliation for murder.
The Blue Angels Motorcycle Club is an international outlaw motorcycle gang formed in Glasgow, Scotland in 1963. The Blue Angels MC is the oldest outlaw biker club in Europe and one of the largest and most powerful clubs in the United Kingdom. The club has chapters in Scotland, England, Belgium, and Spain. The Blue Angels have been linked with organized crime and have been designated a criminal motorcycle gang by the Federal Police of Belgium. Founded in the Maryhill area of Glasgow by Allan Morrison and Billy Stone Gordon in 1963, the Blue Angels Motorcycle Club is the oldest outlaw biker club in Europe. There are claims that blue stands for bastards, lunatics, undesirables, and eccentrics, although this is almost certainly a backronym, and the name more simply originates from the color of the saltire. The Blue Angels emerged from Glasgow's gang culture of the era, which saw various groups fighting over control of the city's rackets. From the club's inception in the 1960s, the Blue Angels were involved in clashes with mods and Glasgow street gangs. The Blue Angels began associating with motorcycle clubs in England during the 1970s, forming an alliance with the Road Rats of London and rivaling the English Hells Angels. Scotland remains one of the few countries in Europe without a Hells Angels chapter. In a 2007 interview with The Scotsman, BAMC President Lenny the Lion Reynolds stated, "We're proud of the fact that there isn't an American influence in Scotland. We fought the Hells Angels in the 1970s, which is why they don't have a chapter here." The club established chapters in the Yorkshire cities of Leeds and Sheffield in 1970. An additional chapter in London disbanded shortly after its inception. The Blue Angels expanded into Belgium in 1992 after patching over a previously independent Belgian club of the same name, which had been founded in Herzl in 1978. In November 2016, Chris Baki de Satelier, who had served as the president of the Blue Angels Belgian chapters for 22 years, was expelled for allegedly embezzling funds from the club as well as founding an unsanctioned Nomads chapter. The club's co-founder and former president Allan Morrison died from chronic obstructive pulmonary disease on 29 January 2020, aged 77. His funeral in Glasgow on 15 February 2020 was attended by around 400 bikers from across Europe. The club has 6 chapters in Scotland, 4 in Northern England, 7 in Belgium, and 2 in Spain. The Blue Angels have approximately 200 members in Scotland alone. The Tribe, the BAMC Support Club, was formed in Edinburgh in November 2011 and has 25 chapters, 12 of which are located in Scotland. Just like their chapters, their criminal activities as well are spread across various countries. In the 1960s, the most senior of Glasgow's gangs began organizing protection rackets, shebeens, and prostitution rings, and battled for control over such operations. The Blue Angels garnered a notoriously violent reputation when the club was involved in fights with mod gangs and various street gangs, including the Maryhill Fleet. These conflicts typically involved bar brawls of John Wayne proportions, which were followed by a series of revenge attacks, including petrol bombings on cars and cafes. In September 1964, a mass brawl involving hundreds of gang members in Glasgow city centre resulted in a Blue Angel being sentenced to life in prison. The gang wars ultimately ended when respective leaders met to organize a truce. Members of the Roadburners and Gartham Black Hawk gangs subsequently joined the Blue Angels. The Blue Angels have alleged links to organized crime. The club became associated with Glasgow crime boss Walter Norval after Norval's daughter Rita married Blue Angels member William Gunn. Gunn was sentenced to 5 years in prison for threatening a witness in Norval's November 1977 armed robbery trial. Blue Angels bikers served as pallbearers at Norval's funeral in August 2014. The Blue Angels were reportedly involved in a biker war with the Tayside chapter of Satan's Slaves in 2011. Actor and musician Charlie Allen was hospitalized after he was allegedly beaten outside a hotel in Stirling in June 2012 by two members of the Blue Angels who accused him of assisting the Outlaws in founding a chapter in Dundee the previous year. The Blue Angels were involved in an effort to stop the Outlaws recruiting in Scotland at the time. A turf war involving the Blue Angels and the Nomads, a motorcycle club formed in Aberdeen in 1966, started after the Blue Angels expanded into Aberdeenshire by patching over the Road Mutts and Tribe clubs. The biker war reportedly started partially for control over the organization of lucrative motorcycle festivals. The conflict led to a string of violent attacks. On 28 September 2013, a Blue Angels member refueling his motorcycle at a petrol station in Aberdeen was beaten with a baseball bat and a metal bar by Nomads members Gavin Blair, Alistair Thompson, and Alexander Mackey, who then fled the scene in a car. After being chased along the A90 road by approximately 30 to 40 Blue Angels members on motorcycles, the Nomads were victims of an attack at Favron. Blair, Mackey, and Roberts were ordered to carry out 200 hours of unpaid work in April 2014 after pleading guilty to assault. Around 20 masked Blue Angels members armed with hammers and metal bars allegedly tried to gain entry to the clubhouse of a rival club in the Mordun area of Edinburgh on 11 August 2018. The clubhouse was destroyed in a petrol bomb attack in the early hours of the following morning. A seriously injured man was rescued from the burning building by firemen. Blue Angels biker Adam Andrews suffered a broken leg, a broken back, and a collapsed lung while carrying out the attack. He was imprisoned for 3 years after being convicted of willful fire-raising at Glasgow High Court on 23 March 2021. On 8 September 2018, Blue Angels member Ian Ewing used his Vauxhall insignia to collide with Nomads biker Colin Sutherland, causing Sutherland to fall from his motorcycle on the A98 road near Cullen Moray. Ewing and a group of unidentified accomplices then attacked Nomads members Colin Sutherland, John Sutherland, Edward Forrest, and Nicky Surratt with a claw hammer, a tire iron, and a baseball bat. The attack was allegedly carried out in retaliation for members of the Blue Angels being assaulted earlier that day. Ewing was arrested shortly afterwards in possession of a hammer and an item of clothing bearing the slogan Blue Angels Northeast. On 3 February 2020, he was convicted at the High Court in Edinburgh of attempting to assassinate Colin Sutherland, assaulting John Sutherland to his severe injury and permanent disfigurement, and assaulting Forrest and Surratt to their severe injury and the danger of their lives. Co-accused Patrick Noble was acquitted on the same charges after the jury returned not proven verdicts, while charges were dropped against Kyle Urquhart and Ian Yeomans. Ewing was sentenced to 7 years in prison. The gendarmerie carried out numerous operations against the Blue Angels in 1996. In March 1999, 33 members were sentenced to prison, received suspended sentences, or were fined for possession of weapons or narcotics, assault and battery, theft, fraud, hostage-taking, and criminal conspiracy, while 2 were acquitted. In 2003, it is claimed by the club that 19 members of a rival gang were hospitalized in a retaliation attack after 2 Blue Angels bikers were shot. In May 2009, Belgium's Federal Police named the Blue Angels as one of 4 criminal motorcycle gangs operating in the country, along with the Bandidos, Hells Angels, and Outlaws. 2 club members were arrested for stealing insulation material from a building site in Erpmere in July 2010. The men allegedly intended to use the stolen material to insulate their clubhouse. Blue Angels members were questioned by police after a man who was ejected from the Blue Angels clubhouse in Roeselare and later returned armed with an iron bar was hospitalized with a head injury on 7 June 2014. The man was convicted of possessing an illegal weapon and was also the victim of an arson attack at his home on 30 January 2015. A Blue Angels member was sentenced to 4 months in prison in November 2015 after being convicted of assaulting his son's teacher during a parents' evening at a school in Aalst. The biker claimed the teacher was bullying his son. In July 2017, a Blue Angels member from Sonnebeck was sentenced to 3 years in prison for car theft, drugs and weapons possession, and forgery of a license plate and driver license. A former Blue Angels member who refused to return his colors to the club after he was expelled was left in intensive care after being stabbed in St. Catharina, Lombeck on 8 September 2018. 6 club members were arrested afterwards, and police found firearms, explosives, and narcotics in the subsequent search of the men's homes. A prospective member who was allegedly involved in the stabbing committed suicide at the Blue Angels clubhouse in St. Amundsburg a few days later. The remaining 5 suspects were charged with violent theft, attempted racketeering, gang building, and possession of prohibited weapons. A number of Blue Angels members were prosecuted following an arson attack on the home of the Leeds motorcycle garage owner Paul Mollem, which took place on 30 April 2006. In July 2007, Mollem was shot and wounded with a crossbow at his home in Boston Spa by Paul Miller, who was allegedly contracted by the Blue Angels to kill Mollem. Miller was sentenced to 16 months in prison in March 2008. Paul Moody, the co-owner of the motorcycle shop with Mollem, was knocked unconscious in a hammer attack carried out by a group of unidentified men at a bikers gathering near Scarborough in September 2010. 4 Blue Angels members, David Hansbury, David Torr, Stephen Clayton, and Martin Booth, pled guilty to threatening behavior relating to an incident on 27 July 2018, in which they forced a member of the mongrel mob to hand over his colors at his home in the Beeston area of Leeds. The victim had previously been a member of the Blue Angels and served as the club's European secretary before being expelled in 2015 and warned against associating with any other motorcycle club in the future. In January 2019, Torr, Clayton, and Booth were sentenced to community service, while Hansbury was made the subject of a 2-month electronically tagged curfew order. Although they are not as known as the other outlaw MCs, this long list will tell you that they have violence in their blood. We'll be back with some real gory stories regarding the violent crimes committed by them. Till then, stay tuned.